Regrettably, I cannot be there with you this morning, but I did want to share excerpts from both of those books as my contribution to your literacy festival. Now, I understand the theme of the festival is promoting responsible expression, literacy for integrity, empathy, and respect. And I did try to select my readings to align with these themes. Boy from Willow Bend is the story of Vere coming of age in Antigua, Vere at a certain point being very precocious and imitating one of his teachers. So that's about his expression, but we also know there's a time and place. So let's read a little bit of what happens in The Boy from Willow Bend, Ye Part Bottom, Chapter 8. Ye Part Bottom, that was the way his third grade teacher, Mr. Good, let a boy or girl know that he or she was talking too much. Mr. Good was the only male teacher at the Catholic primary and the most feared. He didn't hesitate to take off his dark brown belt and let blows fly. The belt was thin, but it stung, and often raised welts wherever it landed. Every morning as he went through the maths drill, belt would fly, keeping time with his chant, "Put on your thinking caps, put on your thinking caps." But when on the playground playing teacher, it wasn't his latter action that role players copied. There, the chief actor, would curve his left brow, purse his lips, fold his arms, and his voice lowered, say, "He'd part bottom." The group of children would crack up no matter how many times he did it. So that's a little excerpt from The Boy from Willow Bend. Of course, Vere could be a future actor with his acting skills, but he's just role playing. And I hope the lesson there is, express yourself, but also time and place. I'm also going to read a little bit from Musical Youth, which is more directly about expression, as the young people in this book are theater kids. They sing, they dance, they rap, they play instruments, they create choreography, they do all the things involved in bringing something to the stage. The section I'm going to read has to do with the just before their first production. They're doing a flash mob in the market square. The next morning, she stood in the middle of Market Square, she being Zahara, the main character. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep, and her body felt jittery. They'd practiced into the early hours of the morning, leaving only enough time to go home, freshen up, and grab a quick breakfast before meeting up at the square at mid-morning. She was nervous, but last night she danced until her brain shut down and muscle memory took over, so she felt she wouldn't totally embarrass the group. Still, she had enough resentment left in her to give Dan and Kong the stink eye, and she took her place with the other dancers. As the drummers, they were the only people who hadn't had to learn the stupid dance. Seeing never know you have so much wine in your waist, Kong had teased during rehearsals. Their drums for the occasion were only white plastic buckets turned upside down, but when they started beating them, Kong with his hands, Dan with his sticks, sure sounded like music. Nicole and Shaka, dressed in the same black t-shirt and jeans they all wore, started things off. Shoulder shrug, chest bump, hip sway, hop. Shoulder shrug, chest bump, hip sway, hop. Zahara's body tensed up in anticipation of her cue, heart somewhat eased by the anonymity provided by the spider mask that they wore. Shaka whipped off his mask and initiated the electric slide. Everyone quickly fell into step, even her. Some of the onlookers joined in. She was stepping on toes a bit as she tried to figure it out, but everyone seemed to be having fun. Up front, Shaka was moving so fluidly, it was like he was boneless. And as he spun, she saw too that he had a big grin on his face. Clearly, the nerves he'd confessed to feeling were gone. She hadn't been worried. He was born for this. Vendors and shoppers alike had stopped what they were doing to watch. Cars had slowed in the street nearby. It was the most exciting thing she'd ever been a part of, the most attention she'd ever had on herself at one time. The crowd whooped and applauded when they stopped. She could get used to this. Having grabbed the crowd's attention and fed off of their enthusiastic response, it wasn't hard to chat up people and sell tickets. You could hardly wait for the night's performance, and looking around at everyone, including Shaka, who caught her eye with a wink, she could see she wasn't the only one. And that's a little bit of musical you. Now, I write all sorts of things, including short stories. And to emphasize that expression comes in different forms, as you see in role playing, as you see in dancing. Um, some people express themselves through cooking, some through sports. The character in a story of mine called Country Club Kids is a poor girl from a ghetto community who is really good at tennis. And that allows her to clear a lot of bridges. The thing about tennis, her name is Rosada, by the way. The thing about tennis is I'm really good at it. No kidding. I have the trophies to prove it. More importantly, though, Chacha, sorry, who is her grandmother, Chacha is the one who took me to the tennis club at the hotel where she works as a property cleaner when I was so little the racket was bigger than me. She's really, really proud. And none of the trophies. Imagine her little Rosada on the same courts those white guests play at, good enough to show all of them what for with a racket in her hand. There was a time that I liked it too, because it was the thing she and I had. That 3 times a week trip to the hotel with 9 kids. Chaka has her share of grandkids, but I'm the one she chose. Maybe because, like people say, I look like her, except for the shiny eyes. Maybe because she named me, claimed me. I have to believe she stays in that job, the longest job she's ever had, so mommy says, just so I can have access to those tennis courts. She brings me old rackets left behind by guests, just like she brings me the books they leave behind, while the hotel guard looks the other way. Mommy doesn't care either way about my tennis, but Chacha tells her all the time that it's my ticket. Just look at them Williams girls. Yeah, the difference is they don't live in the ghetto of some third world island in the Caribbean. Small people think small, Chacha once replied, and I could see Mommy bite her tongue at that. I half expected blood to come gushing out of her mouth. She does that biting thing a lot in conversations with Chacha. But to be fair, my grandmother writes her about everything, at least as much as Mommy writes me and Darcy. More, I'd say. I've heard people say that Chacha has the devil in her just before she hikes up her skirt and lays into someone she feels has looked at her funny. Needless to say, she's always on the out with one or other of her kids, and most of her friends, too. I like being her favorite, though. So while she can puff up her chest, proud that I'm just as good, better, than the son or daughter of this or that supermarket owner, hotel manager, pilot, or government minister, I can feel special that she picked me. We both like that I almost always win. Besides, more and more the kids I beat are getting enough, though we've been playing together since before we knew there was any difference between us. Some of the same girls from the flamboyant gardens court, when they see me at school, look right through me. It almost doesn't matter that I always beat them. I'm still invisible to them. And I still have to sit in the guard booth and wait for my grandma to finish cleaning toilets while they drive off to a world I'll never visit. The resentment started off like a tennis ball sitting in my stomach, back when I started high school and the first set of familiar eyes caught away from me. But it's growing heavier, hardier, like a cricket ball. When Chacha and I part ways at the bottom of the slope, grandma to the hotel, me to the courts, country club kids, that's how I think of them now, are all already there. Coach isn't there yet, though. So a few of them knock balls around aimlessly, while the smaller kids play hide and seek. Most though stand around like they do at school, talking like I've seen people do at parties in those old movies on TV. It's like they're playing at being grown-ups or something. The topic of their conversation is obvious and boringly predictable as they glance repeatedly to where Swiss has a pretty good rally going with this other boy. Swiss is a white kid that all the girls started giggling about recently, like he's new or something. All of a sudden, he's cute because he's got green eyes and light brown hair and grew like 2 feet over Christmas break. Maybe it's that gold hoop he's taken to wearing in his ear. Rosie! Hey, Rosie! It's Swiss calling up from the fence of the court nearest me. The other boy's gone. I just look at him. Want to play? He asks. I shrug. Swiss hasn't changed that much, I guess. I get up and dust off my bottom, racket in hand. We get a pretty good game going. Sneakers squeaking on the hard court as we chase down difficult balls, neither of us wanting to lose to the other. A little giggle, more like a high-pitched squeak, escapes from me when his next ball goes wide. He fires one angrily into the fence and I grin wider, strut a little. He tries to psych me out before the next serve, steely stare and all. But then my backhand meets his forehand and we're off again until my dark skin is slick and his usually pale skin blushes hibiscus red. His bangs are dripping sweat into his eyes and onto his nose, and I can feel water running between my cornrows. We both lost track of time, and this feeling, this moment, is what I still love about tennis. This is almost as good as winning. I laugh out loud, though I've just lost a point to him. He grins over at me, and I grin back. That's a little bit of Country Club Kids. And in that section, we see Rosada really being in her element, enjoying what she loves to do, which is play tennis. All the changes going on in her life because she is a teenager kind of shift into the background when she's playing tennis. And it was the same for me with writing. I hope you find your thing, whatever that is. Express yourself.